it really creates a space to welcome anyone from any background.
What I do is inconsequential. Why I do what I do is I get to shorten people's journeys every day. What I love about our hospitality industry is that it's our mission to make people feel cared for while on their journeys. Together, we'll explore what hospitality means in the built environment, in business, and in our daily lives. I'm Dan Ryan, and this is Defining Hospitality. This podcast is sponsored by Berman Falk Hospitality Group, a design-driven furniture manufacturer who specializes in custom case goods and seating for hotel guest rooms. Today's guests are two creators working at the intersection of culture, cuisine, and design. Two professionals who work behind the scenes to build and design a Korean-branded hotel, the L7 on Wabash, facing the Chicago River, and a restaurant in downtown Chicago. He is the co-founder and director of operations of Perilla Korean American Steakhouse, and she is the founder and principal designer of the Ruimte, an interior design firm. Together, they're creating spaces and experiences that invite people to see Korean culture, its beauty, its elegance, and its hospitality in a new way. Please welcome Thomas Oh and Daphne Shin. Welcome, Thomas and Daphne.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
How are you today?
Good. This is so exciting.
I'm really excited to have you on. But what's even more exciting, just so the listeners know, Berman Falk did the guest room case goods at the L7, and Daphne was the head designer on there when she was working at Avroco. And recently, like within the past month, I was in Chicago with Daphne in the hotel with a couple other people, and we had an incredible Korean barbecue dinner at Thomas's restaurant, which if you're watching on YouTube, he's sitting right in front of. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to smash that subscribe button because it just helps with distribution and everything else. But Daphne and Thomas, that was an amazing idea to go and eat and entertain others and in this wonderful experience. And I'd stayed at the hotel a handful of times before, but sadly, I never ate at the restaurant, and I realized what I was missing. So before we get too far into everything, Daphne, from a designer perspective and creating spaces, and then Thomas, from a restaurateur's perspective, how do each of you define hospitality, or what does hospitality mean to you, and what's drawn you to these life paths that you've chosen? And Daphne, we'll start with you.
So for me, I believe it's about creating a sense of belonging. As an interior designer, mainly hospitality was through creating spatial environments where five senses can be translated to the guest to feel and experience it as they walk into a space. But also, this means offering even just warm gesture to even sharing the food experience. I believe in creating the environment where the guests can feel welcomed, feel safe, feel excited to be part of that experience and want to explore more. So that this feeling of memory that guests can take home after the experience, I think that's what they're going to remember. The guests going to remember for a long time, not necessarily the nitty-gritty details. Yeah. Mhm.
Great. Thank you. And Thomas, how about you?
I think like Daphne said, I think hospitality is, for me at least, it is tough to define in words because I think as it's evolved over the years for me in my career, I think hospitality has become a sense of, it's a feeling. I think it's making sure that guests are seen, felt, and heard. And I think it's a relationship. I think that it's something that you can leave on a person and it's a lasting impression that can be felt for years. And I think it's sometimes hard to define in words. And I think as restaurateurs and as people in service industry, we try to take action to make people feel that.
And as it relates to your definitions of hospitality, thank you for sharing. I think you too had this incredible laboratory of the L7 hotel, which is part of the Lotte brands. Did I say that right? Lotte?
Yeah.
Okay.
Lotte.
Part of the Lotte brand, which is a Korean brand of hotel that's everywhere in the world. And I've stayed at Lotte's all over the place. and they're fantastic. And this was a different lens through which to experience a Lotte hotel in the L7 brand. And I think it was the first L7 in the United States. So from a designer's perspective and a restaurateur's perspective, who are both Korean American, what was it like creating this experience for all guests from all walks of life to live through and experience? Thomas, start with you, and then we'll come over to Daphne on the design side.
So I think in the restaurant specific, we wanted to really showcase, and you can see some of this stuff behind me here. There's like beautiful elements of Korean culture that we really wanted to. I think Koreans come here and they can see all of the little bits and pieces and details, and they can really pick up on it. And I think we wanted to maybe not necessarily throw it in people's faces, kind of turn like a modern, a little bit more of a modern approach to this design. I think it feels elegant. It feels clean. It was really exciting to add these, incorporate these elements into the space. And it's just done and integrated in a really, really well manner that it's not like, it's not intrusive, but it's just elegantly woven into the space here.
But also, as a restaurateur, Thomas, you're up against a lot of competitive steak places in Chicago, which is like, when I think of Chicago, I think of pizza and I think of steak. And then, right? So to have this Korean American steakhouse, right? How did you inject the American word into the Korean barbecue experience? How would you differentiate yourself from the world-renowned steakhouses that are there, you also being one of them, but also bring in that Korean aspect as well?
I think there's a lot of elements in the restaurant that kind of will weave into the kind of iconic Chicago steakhouse. And some of those things are like, when I think of like an old Chicago classic steakhouse, typically I think of like dark mahogany wood, very dark lit. It feels a little bit masculine. I think we wanted to kind of get away from that a little bit. And I think, you've been here yourself. I think the space is really inviting to everybody. I think it adds some of those textures. I think like the banquettes, right, which is kind of like all around this restaurant, really kind of feel steakhouse. These nice, beautiful chairs that are comfortable, wide. These are elements that I feel like still incorporate those elements of Chicago steakhouse into the space. But I think that we've done, I think there's been an incredible job.
This might be a totally separate conversation, and maybe one more in Daphne's expertise as a designer. But when you talk about the wider banquettes and seats, you wouldn't find seats that wide in Korea, would you? Is that like a wonderfully American thing? So, Daphne, have fun with that one.
It was a challenging part because also, the Korean's steak grill has a lot of parts to it. So, creating the banquet detail was actually challenging to make sure that people feel comfortable when they're sitting and there's a proper equipment underneath the table, and properly vented out so that the restaurant doesn't smell like,
Oh, that's a really good point. And that's what I've eaten at. My kids love Korean barbecue. So we always go down into Manhattan, onto 32nd Street.
Yeah.
I think it's 32nd Street. And I think we've hit every single Korean barbecue place, but at almost all of them, there's this huge vent that comes down over the table to suck out all the smoke and everything. But really, it's in the hotel lobby, and I've stayed there many times, and I never even smelled the grilling
You didn't
meat.
even know there was a steak.
No, I had no idea.
It's that good.
It's very intrusive, right? It's like when you're trying to enjoy dinner with somebody across the table from you, you don't want this like giant metal cylinder in front of your face.
Right.
So,
well, but Daphne, from the design perspective, working on the hotel and the restaurant for a Korean brand, for L7's first footprint in the United States, like, how did that make you feel? Like, was there a tremendous weight, or I don't know, were you concerned with the outcome? I feel like you had like the weight of Korea on your shoulders.
I was really excited because it just like gives me another like layer of like meaning to work on this project that like I want to make it proud in a way. So along the way it was like really fun to collaborate with the team at the Lotte and also make sure that it gets translated properly to the American palettes and also fit into the Chicago downtown setting. So it was like all about kind of like how can we balance that we still hone into the Korean DNA of the design, but not to be so loud. We are not bringing Korean museum into Korean Chicago downtown. So like how can we marry that two culture together? And also at the end of the day, it's a hotel, right? It's like so many different different how to say different national people come through, different languages are spoken. It's a really a like melting pot spot, and how can we make that space to make it feel comfortable for everyone who walk into that space basically.
Mm.
So it was a fun challenge. Yeah.
Love it. And then Thomas, so being in this city of amazing steakhouses and having an amazing steakhouse in this incredible city, which I love Chicago so much. And I feel like a celebrity every time I'm there just because my name is Dan Ryan, and people
That's right.
get very excited. Oh my God, are you named after the expressway? And then after like a minute, I always joke and say, no, it was named after me. And then after
There
a
you
minute or
go.
two of talking, they start lamenting about how horrible the traffic is there. And it's like getting a root canal after 5 seconds. But
Oh
how
my
do
God.
you, in Chicago, in the Midwest, how do you create this Korean American steakhouse that invites guests who might be unfamiliar with what Korean cuisine is? And was that also a goal of yours to help everyone experience the incredible nature of what Korean cuisine is?
Yeah, absolutely, Dan. I think you nailed it right on the head. It's, at the end of the day, 7 years ago, when Andy and I started our first restaurant together, our goal and mission has always been to push the narrative and introduce Korean culture through Korean dining. And our job is to try to get kimchi and all of Korea's wonderful, other elements in front of people's on the dinner table. And like if it starts with like Korean fried chicken to get you in the door, and then we can teach you what kungjung tteokbokki is, then that's a big win for us, right? Because the general perception of Korean food is that it's either kimchi, bibimbap, or kalbi. And
all amazing and my favorites.
absolutely. But when we decided to do the steakhouse, the word steakhouse was really important because of where we are. So for those of you for listeners, like we're as like, I think central as it gets for downtown Chicago, we're like where the river kind of starts to meet the lake. It's a very vibrant area of Chicago now. And the goal here is to try to introduce Korean food to the masses, right? In the West Loop, that's a lot of neighborhoods, that's a lot of residential, it's a lot of the community of Chicago. But here we're introducing it to the vast public of people that are visiting downtown Chicago. And that's a huge population of everyone from around the world. And so if we can get people in the door through the word steakhouse, and then they're surprised to see some kimchi, some samjang, some sam, like then great. Then we've done our job. We're introducing our culture and through our food to more and more people. So
I want to add something here.
Oh, go for it, Daphne.
Like, as you know, Dan, like when you were at Perilla, you got to try so many different like side dishes. We call it banchan. So, like sharing that experience is a big part of Korean culture. It's very communal. And like creates that relationship among people through sharing the experience, like by eating together and sharing the soju shot together. So it's that like
Oh, you made me drink too many of those that night. You were very well behaved, Daphne. I want everyone to know that you brought out the best/worst of me in by forcing me to drink the
Yeah,
soju.
like I wanted to show you how, like we really do it proper way as a Korean, way. It's all about coming together as a group and sharing the experience. And I think that's really beautifully showcased at Perilla Steakhouse in downtown Chicago and bringing everyone together, whether you speak different language, whether you have different background. But when everyone come together at Perilla and Lotte Hotel, you feel belonging there.
Daphne, I want to speak more on the hotel side of things right now because in my experience at the Lottes I've stayed at around the world, I would say it's a luxury property, right? And then this L7, I would say is more a luxury slash lifestyle or lifestyle slash luxury. But one of the things I noticed, and not at any I guess it's very country specific at the Lottes that I've stayed at,
Mm,
but if I walked into that, or not if, when I walked into that
mm,
L7 and into the lobby and up into the rooms, I didn't get any sense that it was a Korean hotel
mhm,
at all. But I'm sure you
mhm.
brought references from your design palette but maybe it's not like hitting me in the face that this is a Korean hotel. Like, give us some examples of some of the materials or cultural references that you brought in to the design language.
We definitely wanted to again have that Korean DNA built in, integrated, where it's not screaming on your face out loud.
Mhm.
So all the throughout the color palette, we are actually looking into that Korean um sort of the color palette from that you can see from Korean heritage art. So the headboard color to the lounge chair color to overall FF&E come together and create this Korean color palette. But also if you look at the you're looking at the Korean art that you have behind you.
Well, I'm looking at,
That's
as you said, the color palette. I wanted to look back at the
yeah.
piece of Korean art I have
Actually,
behind me, and
you
it feels very similar. It has like those jewel tones that's
yeah.
warm.
Actually, that art behind you, doesn't that remind you of the carpet on the
Yes.
ex-minister
Holy
carpet
crap.
in the
That's
bedroom?
totally by accident. Okay, great.
So the through carpet to the all the FF&D color overall together, and also light fixture, the shape, and we're wanting to create this lantern, the profile design there as well. We also have challenge with the budget, but we came with this smart solution how we can actually achieve the design element, but still respect the budget that we have. So it was a lot of, back and forth, but then I think outcome was a really smart solution, and we were able to build in all this Korean heritage DNA elements into it.
So not only on the colors, the jewel tones and patterns that are behind me in this piece of art, but also those little compartments. I feel like the hotel has a lot of those little compartments everywhere.
Yeah, I think when we were looking into styling items, we were very conscious about the color palettes and how all gonna come together. It's very in a way how can we create a space that's not loudly Korean, but hidden feature.
Yeah.
I want to add to that just to celebrate what I think the work that's been done here is that to me it's like if you were talking it in restaurant terms, it would be like a really incredible white burgundy where like the oak is just perfectly integrated. It's not hitting you in the face like a 2x4, like some Napa Valley Chardonnay. It's just perfectly woven in, and I think that's what I see throughout this entire
Yeah.
building here is as a Korean, you do see it and you see all these, you catch all these little details.
And probably, Thomas, probably you can see the bojagi, the moments at the restaurant
Yes.
too. So that's kind of the Korean way of like weaving different patches of fabric work to create. We created this beautiful drapery moments, and it's it's not loud, but it's the old everything is in that detail.
Thomas, opening and actually being a part of the opening of the L7 Korean hotel. not it's not the L7 Korean hotel, but the L7 hotel in
Mhm.
Chicago, and then also your Korean American Steakhouse. What surprised you the most about the reception of Korean culture and cuisine into Chicago?
So I think there's been a lot. I think it's a little bit that's a tough question because so we've had a Korean restaurant in downtown Chicago, but being here at this location, um, I am seeing just a vast array of different people coming into our restaurant than we had in the West Loop. And I think that for me and everyone here at this restaurant, it's been such a big highlight. It's something that I think, naturally anticipated and aimed for as a target and goal was how do we get the tourists of Chicago to come and visit this restaurant? Um, because I think what maybe some listeners don't understand is like this entire area here is usually filled with like a lot of corporate big chain steakhouse restaurant groups and bigger hospitality groups in Chicago. We're one of the very few small independent restaurant owners that are existing in this landscape over
Mm,
here. So it was a big one, a challenge. But seeing the excitement of people that are coming in from all different parts of the world, we get a lot of European travelers, a lot of South American travelers coming in here. It's exciting for me and for the team here for them to come into our space. And like Daphne said, like maybe they're not like, we're not screaming, this is Korean to them, but they're loving the design of this restaurant
yeah.
and the hotel.
And the food.
Yeah.
Oh, the food. Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's warming to hear how much people are loving all of these elements, and the food. And because to me, again, it's like then we're doing what we're making the impact that we set out to do, which was to push this dialogue and narrative that Korean restaurants, Korean culture is not something that's like only out of necessity, cheap plastic, you know.
It's elevated food experience. I would say like every time I go try Perilla steak, like I'm always amazed that like the menu that you guys create is like exceptional. Like so much there's like dynamite in my mouth. Like there's so much.
Well, I agree. It was really fantastic, and the presentation was incredible. And Daphne, I guess for you, as far as if people and as people go and explore let's say the restaurant in particular, right? And they experience the Korean cuisine and the design, but also in the rooms if they stay in the hotel, what would you hope that that'll help them discover as they first experience for a person who's first experiencing Korean cuisine and design?
Yeah, I mean like I think from staying at L7 Chicago and trying Perla steak, they'll be more curious about knowing, exploring Korean, more different Korean cuisine, or wanting to check out, different, I don't know, K-pop to Korean beauty. It just opens up curiosity of the people who walks through that property, basically, which I'm very happy to see that it just opens that Pandora box for their curiosity.
Mm. And Thomas, how about you?
Yeah, I think it's what we both spoke on, which is, at the end of the day, we want people to start to peel some layers back, right? Start to discover that there's way more to this than just, K-pop demon hunters and and just like the basic kind of first layer of things that people, when they think of Korean culture, that there's also this refinement, there's like this elegance, there's like a perseverance and determination of our people that like, I feel like the modern Korean food scene is just beginning. I feel like we're scratching the surface with like Atomix and Paru in LA. And, I think that
Oh my gosh, and
as
with
we
Coat in Miami and New York, like it's all
Yeah,
happening.
absolutely
yeah.
right. And I feel like we're just getting the work started here. And I think my hope is when we talk about Asian restaurants, and all things Asian culture, that we're not talking about cheap scarcity, poverty, that there's like a beauty, a refinement and elegance to all of this. And I'm just excited for people to explore
But
that.
I know you were joking about the K-pop Demon Slayers, but and also just K-pop in general. But and skincare. I don't know which one of you was talking about the skincare, but like I'm telling you, the most recognized celebrities in the world right now are from the K-pop scene. So globally, and then all the skincare stuff and the culture, the food that's having a moment in this remix, in this kind of modern, like super luxury, elevated presentation of the food. Korean culture is definitely having a moment right now, and it's pretty incredible. And I agree with you, Thomas. It seems to be, or we all seem to be, at least in America, on the front, on the not leading edge. The leading edge is Korea, but it's like we're all first starting to appreciate at scale this remixed kind of Korean culture coming in via food, music, and skincare, health and wellness. How do you see that taking out? Are there any other green shoots that you could share, Thomas, about how that's penetrating um, America, Europe, the rest of the world? Like, what's happening in the vanguard of this Korean resurgence or insurgence?
I think all of us in the community are incredibly excited about where this, quote unquote K wave is going. But I also know that it's also scary that sometimes these things can be, we can get pigeonholed into like what this means and where it's limited to. And my only hope is that as we push this conversation forward, that it's opening up more avenues of interest to what other things our culture has already had, and also can provide. And yeah,
I think
go ahead.
Thomas and I are basically on that front line to really needs to keep shaping, this stream, where it's going and keep defining.
Daphne, I personally love the idea of the K wave. I've never heard of that before, but that's probably because I just don't pay attention to a lot of things. But in what you're saying and what I'm seeing you do and how you're building your business, you are paddling like crazy on your surfboard, trying getting that good wave. You're like positioning yourself ahead of that
I
K
do
wave.
feel that
So
every day.
yeah, so
So
what's
yeah,
it? Okay, so you as a newer entrepreneur, how do you feel about that? Like, how are you as an entrepreneur? Forget the Korea thing. How are you paddling, and what are you learning from paddling based on your experience thus far?
so far it's been about a year that I've been doing my solo journey. But I must say, it's the relationship or the way I work hasn't changed anything. Because it's all about like collaboration. It's all about working with like it's a huge teamwork. It's not just me designing. There's so many people involved. And so I'm doing the same thing as like how I used to do. But now I have to take on all that um behind the scene back, the admin stuff and all that, the not so fun stuff. So, but it's also like it's really humbling me that what it takes to run a business. It really give me this whole bigger like perspective of wow, like I have more respect towards to Avroco, Rockwell, Adin Design, and all the company that I worked with before. That wow, this takes a village. Yeah.
It does, but also you as a new-ish entrepreneur, you came to the US when you were 17 and you did not master the English. You did not have mastery of the English language
Oh
then.
yeah.
And like to me, aside from doing all the cool, incredible things that you've done along your career path and learning a new language and doing all this and making relationships, it's incredible. Like how how did you not let the language thing become a barrier?
I think, it's actually sort of like when I first moved here when I was 17, not knowing how to speak English properly at all. And I'm still learning English, but um, it it was really stressful and challenging back then. But now I look back, actually, it like opened up because like it was sink or swim situation. So like I had to sort of like push myself to, fit in and like keep going. And I think that mentality still lives with me, that I don't, okay, like I don't really know properly do something, but I'm just gonna start doing it and I'll figure out as I go. So that kind of like just doing it. And then if, I always kind of like tell myself that like, okay, I wish I was like a rocket scientist, but I am not a rocket scientist. But like what I'm trying to solve here is I'll be able to find a solution. So, and I work with a lot of amazing people around me, and
Mm.
we're finding solution together always. And it's as long as I'm willing to work together, yeah, it's a and but also actually, can I share this quick story?
Absolutely.
So I went to
Well,
art.
actually, wait
Yeah,
one second before
yeah.
you share the story, because I don't want it to be the same. Like, I hope it's not the one that I wanted to bring up, which is I know because I heard you say you're not a rocket scientist, right? But you are now an expert exhaust scientist, and you did have a huge challenge as it relates to the restaurant because apparently, and you can tell the story better than I can, you had to have this huge exhaust ducting system put up on the roof of the very tall building. And I don't remember if it was a crane or a helicopter that had to come through,
Helicopter.
helicopter, and shut it all down. But also, like, you must have learned so much about exhaust and fluid dynamics and all of these other things to get that done. Were you tell us about that?
At the end of the day, it's a full collaboration, right? There's like behind the scene, there's a huge team of GC, there's a mechanical engineer, there's a architect, like, so it's like at the end of the day, we're all trying to come together to a solution that's gonna work functionally, but also looks beautiful. So yeah, going back to earlier on that like it's really a team work. Like I never say like I did that, I designed this, I solved this. I always say we did that. It's our work because I cannot just put a name tag on final product.
Hey, everybody. We've been doing this podcast for over 3 years now. And one of the themes that consistently comes up is sustainability. And I'm just really proud to announce that our sponsor, Berman Falk Hospitality Group, is the first within our hospitality industry to switch to sustainable and recyclable packaging, eliminating the use of styrofoam. Please check out their impact page in the show notes for more info. Did I interrupt that story, or were you going to tell a different one?
Actually, I feel like I'm like jumping around.
That's
But,
okay.
like, yeah.
That's the beauty of the podcast. There's no rule.
Yeah. I mean, so like, like not knowing English very well and then going through high school and then I went to architecture school in Chicago. Um because my parents being Asian parents, they wanted me to go to like medical school, but I really wanted to go to art school, so we made a kind of middle ground that I went to architecture school. Uh, but like I didn't actually know about hospitality back then. But there was this hotel, 2011 just opened when I was in college, public hotel by
Oh, yeah.
Sugar. And at the time, I was working at a part-time job at a library, at the college library, making, I don't know, below $10 or $8. But like I would save that money and then go to that public hotel lobby and get a cocktail. Probably I'll like spend the month
A
of
f-
salary that
yeah, a month or a full. Yeah, I was going to say a week's wages to buy the
but
cocktail. Yeah.
like as a, like for me, that was such a special experience that like I felt accepted. I didn't need to be Korean. I didn't need to be American. It just transferred me to this like new world that like
Mm.
it doesn't you don't need to be anyone, and this is like a whole sort of like fantasy world. As soon you walk in, the smell of the lobby and like the ambient of the hotel, it's just that I was like blown away. And then now I think about it, it's like, oh wow, like actually it connects that like maybe that's why drawn to where I'm at now.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting about that story, Daphne, is that you and Thomas both talk about hospitality as far as it's like as making strangers feel as if they belong, right? And even by all the things that you do from food and design. So Thomas, since opening Perilla, is there, can you share a moment when I'm trying to think like maybe a guest has come in and never had a Korean barbecue or Korean steak experience, and but it doesn't have to be defined by that. But can you think about a time when a stranger came in and gave you some kind of a feedback, or your team some kind of a feedback that then you were like, yes, this is exactly why we did this. Like what validated the proof of concept? Is there a story that you could share?
I can't think of a particular story, but I can tell you this, that it happens every single day. And every day there's the little victories, and those are really what keep us going, right? And you hear this all the time from a lot of restaurateurs, especially new ones, about how challenging this industry is, right? About how difficult the work is and how slim the margins are. And I can tell you this, that if there's any restaurateurs listening to this, they'll probably agree and shake their head up and down with this, is that it's the little victories every single day that keep us going day by day. And every day I definitely come across a guest in any one of our restaurants, especially here, that maybe it's their first time trying miyeokguk in a breakfast pansang that we do here, or mukguk, or they've never heard that there was more than one kimchi. My favorite thing is when people are like, wait, that's also kimchi, this is also kimchi. And I'm like, there's over 3,000 times of kimchi in Korea. Like, it's a
Whoa.
technique, not a dish. And again, it's like that, Andy has this thing he always says, and I always quote him on this because it's so beautiful. It's like, food is a catalyst to bringing people together at the dinner table. And, whatever it is, like, it's the food at the end of the day that maybe opens up conversation and opens up people's minds. And I just get excited about this every time. Every day I see someone kind of treading their feet lightly into the restaurant. For me, I look at that as an opportunity to turn someone on to something new that they've never had before. And, I watch people eat marinated galbi, which is yangnyeom galbi, because I cook for them here at the tables. And Dan and Daphne, I can't even express in words what it's like to watch someone eat a piece of Australian Wagyu marinated short rib, and they eat it and they're just like, I don't know what's happening in their minds, but it's like just
Blown
pure
away.
joy.
I had that
Absolutely.
experience when Daphne was throwing shots down my throat amongst our whole table, and it was like I didn't know which I needed to be more concerned about, how much of the short rib I was going to eat, or how much soju I was drinking.
Yeah,
But yeah,
That's a
it was
part of
good.
that's the both. That's our
dining
culture.
experience. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
You
sharing.
eat to drink and you drink to eat. You never do one without the other in Korean culture.
So Daphne, I have a question for you, and
Yeah.
after I ask you this and you answer it, I'm going to flip the question around back to Thomas. But what's something that you wish operators
Mm-hmm.
understood about design better?
Oh, this is a challenging question because I would say every operator is different.
Mm-hmm.
So the challenge is every time different. But as a designer, usually like the biggest challenge for me is the timeline and the budget, right? I think from the get-go, if we work together together on we are informed with the budget and the timeline from the beginning and then try to find a solution together from the beginning, I think that's a better success. Because a lot of times when we don't have that clear, um, milestone, we have to come back and redesign, and that just throughout that schedule. So I think just being mindful from the beginning and work together as a team. I think that's the
Great.
good solution.
Great answer. And Thomas, what do you think something designers wish operators what do you think something that, designers wish operators understood better?
I love this question because I remember when we first got the word that we were going to work with Avroco, and I was like, for Andy, myself, and Alvin, I want you to understand, and for listeners, it's like we're a small independent restaurant group in Chicago, and it's like this was a dream come true, and we were like so excited, but we were also very nervous. We were like, are we going to have our input? Are they going to listen to our ideas? And I can tell you this, and I'm sure there's some operators listening that's like, I'm a very like I've worked in this industry. Andy and cooked in his 20s. We both have over 20 years of experience because we worked through this industry, starting at the carryout window. So for me, it's like there's a lot of form over function in my thought process. I need a bar to work as much as it needs to look good. And I think the struggle that we have sometimes with restaurateurs, you'll get people that don't necessarily work in this industry designing restaurants, bars, and dining rooms, but with not taking into account the functional needs of a restaurant for a team to succeed. We definitely had those challenges here. And, like anywhere, you're going to have challenges because every space is different, where water lines are, where electric is. And I think that at the end of the day, you just need to try to find a harmony between you and the design team to be like, we love this, but we really need that, right? And I think that at the end of the day, we did the best that we could here, and it's a beautiful space to work out of. The team is very happy, and we get. And also, like another thing is like you should have seen what this place was before.
Yeah.
It was. They've done an incredible job here. Like it's so beautiful.
It also helps when you hire a designer and Daphne is working on it and she has her helicopter pilot's license. So she could land the exhaust system on top of the building.
Yeah. And I want to say, like, when we met with the team and we knew Daphne was part of this, there was an extra level of excitement coming from the Perilla side of things and the partners, because we really were excited with the idea of like, wow, they're really going to understand what we're looking for. There's a Korean here that understands our diaspora and our culture. And this was a really exciting project. And I'm very, very proud of it. I tell people all the time, go for the food, but experience the design.
Yeah. Daphne, and I know you design so many other things, Daphne, and you have over your career that are not necessarily Korean influence, right? That's your life experience that you're bringing to whatever, but you're designing for anything. But if you could create one dream project that expresses Korean culture through hospitality, what would it be?
I mean, like personally, I actually really love doing hotel. And that's what I've been doing the most throughout my hospitality designed world. Just because, I think like going back to being that immigrant person that like, hotel is just something that very special that like it's for everyone, that like it really creates a space to welcome anyone from any background. So like that's something very special in me. Yeah.
Mm. And how about you, Thomas?
I know your
I
answer. We talked about this the other day.
Oh, please. What is
Oh,
this?
speak for him.
That you're gonna have this amazing cafe bar.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely that'll happen.
In the future.
But I think, yeah, in the future. But I honestly, I don't know. I feel very blessed. I feel like I'm living it. I feel like I'm living it every day that we operate and get to introduce our food and culture to people. And I think that's been a mission of ours. And when I say ours, Andy and I have been both working tirelessly, long and hard hours in this industry for a very long time, under the guise of other restaurateurs and serving other cultures' food. And it's been a long dream come true to work together and serve Korean food. And yeah.
And then Daphne, for you, if someone walked into Perilla or a space designed by you 20 years from now and said, there's something super special about this place, I can't quite put my finger on it, what would you say that something special was? Or what would you hope that something special was?
That's actually an interesting question because like I wonder 20 years later what will be like the Korean culture influence here. Like, I hope that the Perilla steak and also L7 is a timeless design that, like, even 20 years later, that it still feels very, um, it doesn't feel outdated. It's holding up well and feels still elegant as it is. So I think, yeah, just
Awesome.
yeah.
And then Thomas, what about you? If someone were to walk, do you have like a 20-year lease there? How long is your lease?
Well, it's up to Lotte. So I hope this is standing in 20 years. I think that the team did such an incredible job. I think it is a timeless design. I think that because of how well integrated some of these cultural elements are in the space, and how beautifully it's done, I think that it's going to stand the test of time. And you know, going back to like Daphne's story about the public, like, when we first met with them, like Ian Schrager, some of his properties are actually a big, they have a lot of influence on the three of us
Oh,
at
really? I
Perilla.
didn't
And,
know that.
oh yeah. Oh yeah. I actually stay at the public every time I go in Soho. And, I've been to almost like every Edition property. Yeah. I've been to all the Edition hotels. And I think that, as I grow and mature and I travel and I explore these beautiful hotels, I'm starting to realize how much the design is subtly influencing my experience and the feeling that it gives me. And I appreciate it more than
Well,
ever. Back when I was just trying to save $1 on a hotel room, I look for those experiences now because I think that design has such a powerful impact on your experience. And I hope that in 20 years, people walk into this restaurant and hotel and they feel that too.
Well, one of the things I can say is that most hotels get their F&B experience completely wrong. Like it's either just for the guests or it's not really meant to engage the outside community. And I think what you guys have created there is something where the outside community is coming in for this awesome dining experience, but it also dovetails nicely in with the hotel. But I don't know the business model, but I don't think that they're necessarily dependent on either one, but they're accretive towards each other in the sense that 1+1 = 3 in what's created there. So do you have any stories, Thomas, about or anecdotal evidence about how you guys both feed off of each other, and maybe you might bring new guests or new people in, but the guests in the hotel might not have considered or ever had Korean barbecue? Like, tell us what that a story from that perspective.
So I'll tell you one recently. There's a very famous Korean person that just happened to be visiting Chicago because their family just donated in a massive collection of some of Korea's oldest art to the Chicago Art Institute here. And I got word from a concierge friend of mine, that this person, I'll leave the person nameless maybe
That's fine.
for
Yeah,
the sake of this.
respect.
And it's like one of those instances where they weren't here because of this hotel. They reached out because of this restaurant.
Really?
And we made it happen. We got this table in here, very high profile person, and they had such a wonderful experience. And I was elated by the feedback that they were providing. And to their surprise, they didn't know that there was like a hotel above us. Right.
Well, that's
And
actually super interesting because I've stayed there countless times. And although right when you walk in, there's a wide open entrance into the restaurant, I had no idea the restaurant was there until you and we were all talking, and then I went there. But even though I walk, because mostly I get in early or late. Well, normally I get in early or late, and I'm not at the hotel, right? I'm just there to sleep. But I just had no idea. But
right.
that's also a testament to how when you do step back and look at it, they both fit really well together. Like it's really a perfect match.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a beautiful harmony in the design between the restaurant and the rooms. And I think there's that woven kind of like common denominator is just like felt throughout the space. But yeah, I think both of these things are supplementing each other really
It's
well
like
here.
the other is like not dominating, like they're balancing each other basically.
Yeah, it's balanced.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Hmm. And also it's like, I think it's interesting that maybe, Thomas, how did Lotte approach such small restaurant group? I actually,
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great question.
because like I would think, like usually, like Avroco work with such big company like Boca or
Right. I think so. At the end of the day, there was a president of Lotte North America that one day kind of snuck into our other restaurant in the West Loop, and just being the manager at the time, I kind of like always went through emails at the host stand, and I noticed that there was a Lotte email attached to this guest, and I just wanted to make sure that this person had a great time. And so I told Andy, and, we sent a couple extra plates out. I just did what I always do with service. And at the end of the night, he slipped me his card and said that he's very interested in talking to us, and that he spoke to 3 of his most trusted colleagues in Chicago and asked who the best Korean restaurant was. And we were on that list, and that short list. And so, yeah, we were really fortunate. My mom could not believe me that we were doing a restaurant with Lotte. As a someone who was born in 1954 in Korea. Yeah, she was over the moon. She couldn't believe it. Andy's mom was freaking out as well.
Oh my gosh,
So
that's such a special story. And I have to share also, without going too far down into this story, but when I was there with Daphne, it was almost a year to the day after I had this breakthrough, almost Back to the Future flex capacitor moment of rethinking my business model, right? And just running projects differently and everything else. And one of the guests at the dinner was at that place directly across the street. I don't know how that happened, but it was, the whole world was coming together. And it's really important, like, as much as people talk about AI and technology, that moment that you had right there of looking at who was coming in and saw that they had a Lotte email, you weren't expecting anything from it, but you were like, you know what? This is a Korean thing. I want to like do something a little bit different and make that stand out. And I think that in all of hospitality, from all the conversations I have, it's all about those small human moments that I hope humans will be the only ones that can ever do forever. But to me, that's why it's so important that we all have to be in a place where we are able to deliver that hospitality and make that other person feel welcome. And some more welcome than others because, there's this cultural connection that you have.
right.
thousand
No,
percent.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Just like that moment of, had I not been there that night, had Andy not been cooking there that night,
It's synchronicity.
just yeah, opportunity and time, luck. It's just like, I don't know. Life is just
And I
crazy.
feel
Just
like,
be
yeah,
prepared, right?
I think that's really right to say. It's that like you don't know when these opportunities gonna come to you, and you just have to be ready to grab it when it shows up. And I think that with that mindset, it's like that's sort of like how I go about with this new venture that I'm taking.
Totally.
Yeah.
But that always goes back to the same adage.
Yeah.
I don't know who said it. I'm sure it was said multiple ways by multiple people, but it's like the harder I work, the luckier I become, right? Because you got to be taking the shots. You're not going to make the shots you don't take. And with that, I would just like to say thank you both for giving me an incredible experience at Perilla, and also just all the work at that hotel that we completed as Berman Falk Daphne. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Thomas, thank you for everything that you do. It's so wonderful to meet you, and I wish you tremendous success. Daphne, I have no doubt about you being tremendously successful. But thank you both.
Thank you so much,
Thank you for having
Dan.
us
This
on.
was so much fun.
Yeah.
Yes, an incredible amount of fun, especially this time I wasn't drinking so much soju, so I won't have a hangover when I wake up and try and catch a
Next
flight
time
tomorrow.
when you're in Chicago, we'll do round 2 at Perla. Don't worry.
Maybe oh my gosh, my liver.
And I'll be here this time.
Okay, my liver is screaming at me right
It's
now.
okay. You'll do another Korean face mask the next day, so you will look great.
We should dine with the Korean face masks. I think that would be wonderful. But also thank you to our listeners, because without you tuning in every week, we wouldn't be here talking to incredible entrepreneurs like these two. Thank you all very much. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you think someone can benefit from this in any way, shape, or form, please pass it along. We grow a lot organically by word of mouth, and I appreciate you very much. And we'll catch you next time.